Maxwell Chikumbutso is no stranger to criticism and ridicule. For decades, he has paraded claiming to have defied the laws of physics by creating his controversial microsonic energy device in 2009, a device dubbed a perpetual motion system, a name coined for a fictional system that is always generating power and never running out. Join me as we unravel the mysteries surrounding Sangulani's device, the gift that never stops giving. If you're just hearing of this guy for the first time, let me bring you up to speed. Born in Mazowe, Zimbabwe on the 10th of November 1980, Maxwell is a high school dropout whose first personal invention was a radio broadcasting transmitter. In 2009, he invented his microsonic energy device, a device he has claimed to be powering all his demonstrations to date, including a 42-inch Samsung LED TV, a motorbike, his greener power off-grid generator, and most recently, the SUV he showcased at the State House of Zimbabwe on January 27th. Now, why is it that someone with such groundbreaking technologies is facing backlash from the general public and the scientific community at large, you ask? Chikumbutso says that he has had no notable formal education and that the equations and theories he has used in his inventions were all from God. Being a believer myself, I acknowledge that miracles actually do happen, but the lack there of independent verification of his breakthrough technology or even peer-reviewed research is what many are pointing to as work of a fraudulent scammer. I am going to discuss 3 reasons which are making most people skeptical about Sangulani's inventions. Firstly, Chikumbutso's said inventions defy the laws of physics. Sangulani claims that his ultrasonic energy device draws power from ambient radio frequency signals. And hear me out, guys. Such a concept is not new, as we already experience this with RFID tags. The fundamental differences, though, are that RFID tags do not draw energy from ambient signals like what Sangulani's machine does, but instead draw their energy from a dedicated source, a radio frequency antenna. And this conforms to the first law of thermodynamics, which in simple terms states that energy is neither created nor lost, but is only transferred from one form to another, as with the case with an RF antenna giving energy to an RFID tag through the RF signal transmitted. And mind you, the RFID tag is just a small card housing a patch antenna in the minuscule circuit. And it is essential to note that the power generated in this process is in the order of milliwatts. This is very little power. Again, we have other devices like the PowerCast P210B or the P1110B. These are radio frequency harvesting devices which have since long existed from the early 2010s. However, these devices have been used to power remote wireless sensors which require little power, and this is okay, since the RF energy harvested can only produce about 50 milliamps output current and about 5 volts output voltage. This is because there is not much ambient RF energy to harvest. Now, Sangulani claims he can produce half a megawatt with his greener power generator. In other words, 500,000 watts of power. That's a fallacy. Because ambient RF signals have a low power density, and this essentially is the amount of power available per unit area of space from a given source, and is measured in watts per square meter. A typical Wi-Fi signal has a power density of 1 microwatt per square centimeter, and a cell tower signal may be around 10 microwatts per square centimeter. As you can see, these are very little amounts of power which can reasonably give birth to about 15 volts of electric potential at most. And this is if you're making use of highly efficient antennas and rectifying circuits. But still, the process cannot be 100% efficient because of the second law of thermodynamics, which states that the entropy of an isolated system always increases over time. This sets a limit on the efficiency of engines and other energy conversion devices such as Chikumbutsos, because when converting heat into work, some energy is always lost as waste heat, increasing the entropy of the surroundings. Furthermore, Chikumbutso claims that his vehicle can perform well in the rural areas and even act as a generator, providing power to the homestead. When in actual fact, we are saying in the urban areas where electromagnetic radiation is at its most abundant, his claims are unachievable. What more in the rural areas where there are very few radio frequency sources? Radio frequency sources include cell towers, Wi-Fi routers, cell phones, satellite dishes, etc. From the free space path loss equation, we know that a signal loses its strength as it travels from the source. This suggests that the power density of radio frequency waves in the rural areas is solely 2, since these remote areas are a considerable distance away from the RF sources, again making it even harder for Maxwell's claims to be true. Sangulani states that his devices are perpetual motion devices which do not require external power and that he is harnessing RF signals, the very same signals with the least energy in the electromagnetic spectrum. RF signals vibrate between 3 kHz to 300 GHz, and specifically considering their subset, microwaves, which oscillate between 300 MHz to 300 GHz. Let's say we indulge Maxwell for a minute. Obviously, to harvest that much energy, this entails building a sophisticated array of antennas which receive a vast range of frequencies on the RF spectrum, making use of all the frequency bands available, and then somehow multiplexing these received signals into a single signal to be converted to a direct current signal. And yet, with all this having been achieved, it is still an impossible feat to efficiently convert all this energy to a reusable voltage of beyond 15 volts, as shown by devices like the PowerCast P2110B, which gives 5 volts output voltage. Solar power is harnessed from electromagnetic radiation, and this is because infrared and visible light oscillate at greater frequencies than radio waves and are able to excite electrons in a photovoltaic cell. To summarize all this, if you're not inclined to science as much, the first point mentions thermodynamics laws 1 and 2, which say you cannot create something from nothing and that this process can be 100% efficient, respectively. And yet, that is what Sangulani claims his device to be able to do. The second reason why one can be skeptical is that most breakthrough technologies in the recent years have disrupted markets and industries the very moment they were introduced. The likes of smartphones, 3D printing, electric vehicles, or even apps like Zoom and TikTok. A good example is ChatGPT. Because of the disruptive nature of the product, it managed to capture global attention, becoming one of the fastest growing tech products ever by surpassing 1 million users in just 5 days of its launch. That's just how revolutionary products work. If Chikumbutso's device was as real as he claims, should not it have garnered a similar attention too? Given that for decades, scientists and engineers have been looking for alternative ways to harness renewable energy, such efforts which have resulted in notable breakthroughs like the terahertz rectifiers, which MIT physicists designed blueprints for in 2020. Ever since, there's been progress to use the quantum mechanical behavior of the carbon material graphene to help in absorbing ambient terahertz waves to produce direct current. Terahertz waves are those electromagnetic waves between microwaves and infrared light. Another technique of note is quantum tunneling, used to harvest infrared energy into electric power, and notable work in this field is being carried out by a team from King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. However, Since 2009, the microsonic energy device by Sangolani has garnered nothing but criticism and jeer. Thirdly and finally, one citing that Zimbabwe has been plagued with electric power cuts throughout the course of the last decade. Heck, when I was creating this video, I had to use a backup torch a few times. And yet, we have Chikumbutso with this greener power of grid machine which can generate usable electricity from radio waves and electrify hundreds of households. So why is it that such a marvel product is not being used to solve local power shortage problems? Surely, the lack of patents from the international community would not affect the local use of great technology. As a fellow blogger from TechZim once said, the hallmark of legitimate scientific breakthrough is not just innovation, but verifiability. We await to see if Maxwell will allow the scientific community, local or global, to verify his inventions. What saith you, saith technologies? Thank you for watching this video. If you found the content engaging and helpful, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss out on new videos. This will also help my channel grow and motivate me to make more videos of such likeness.